It's kind of easy to overlook, but the sheer scale of the global background music market
Yeah,
is pretty surprising when you actually stop and think about it.
it really is.
We're looking at what, an estimated USD 1,758.0 million in 2025.
Yeah, close to 1.8 billion.
When you consider that's roughly the GDP of a small country,
Yeah,
I mean, it really puts the soundtrack to our lives, the one that's just always there,
yeah,
into perspective, doesn't it?
absolutely. It's ubiquitous.
And today, um, because you shared this really detailed report with us, we're going to unpack exactly what's driving this huge industry.
Right.
Our mission really is to give you the crucial insights, the so what of all this data without getting too bogged down in every single detail.
Exactly. You've given us a great source here, a really rich report. And yeah, our goal is to just distill it down, get to the essentials of where the market is now and where it seems to be heading.
And the trajectory is definitely upwards. I mean, the projections show a pretty significant climb, looking at USD 2,718.5 million by 2033. Yeah, that's a CAGR of 5.60% starting from 2025. That kind of sustained growth suggests some really fundamental shifts are happening underneath it all.
For sure. And regionally, it's quite interesting too.
Geographically, yeah. North America currently leads the pack, right? Accounting for like over 37% of global revenue in 2025.
That's right, around USD 650.46 million, and its growth is projected to be pretty steady, about 4.1% annually.
Okay, steady. But what's particularly interesting, as you said, is how it breaks down elsewhere. Europe's also a major force.
Oh, absolutely. They're contributing over 29%, so that's roughly USD 509.82 million in revenue for 2025. Not insignificant at all.
And then following that is Asia Pacific.
Yep, APAC is next with about 24% of the market. So that translates to around USD 421.92 million in 2025.
But here's where the growth story really seems to take off, based on the report. APAC isn't just a significant player now, it's kind of the powerhouse for future expansion.
That's the key takeaway, yeah. It boasts a projected CAGR of 8.3%. That's the highest of any region by quite a margin.
Okay, 8.3%. We'll need to dig into why later. And then South America, the Middle East, and Africa,
Mhm.
they also represent notable segments too, with their own sort of unique growth drivers.
Exactly. Each region has its own story.
And just to give a little taste of what's to come in our chat,
Mhm.
the report flags cafes and restaurants as the fastest growing segment overall.
Ah, yes, that's a really interesting one.
We'll definitely be exploring the reasons behind that surge.
Sounds good. So maybe let's start by looking at how the market breaks down by type.
Yeah, let's do that.
The report suggests that AV system equipment is likely the dominant segment right now.
Okay, AV equipment, so that's the hardware.
Pretty much. When you think about the actual infrastructure you need to deliver background music effectively, the amplifiers, mixers, speakers, and those digital signal processors, the DSPs that really fine-tune the audio.
Right, the tech that makes it sound good.
Exactly. It's a substantial part of the whole equation.
Okay, let's unpack that a bit more then. So this isn't just like someone hitting play on their phone in the corner. It involves a whole ecosystem of gear.
Definitely. And the report highlights this trend towards more advanced, often automated audio solutions. It mentions networked audio using tech like Dante or AV over IP.
Okay, Dante, AV over IP. For someone maybe less familiar with those terms, what's the significance? Why does that matter for a business using background music?
Well, essentially, these technologies let you create a much more unified and manageable audio environment, especially if you're a larger business or have multiple locations.
Ah, okay.
Instead of having, separate, maybe mismatched sound systems in different areas, they allow for centralized control. You can manage the audio distribution from one point, ensure consistent sound quality everywhere, and even make flexible adjustments for different zones or times of day.
So louder near the bar, quieter in the dining area, that sort of thing.
Precisely. And it also means businesses can easily add or remove audio zones later without needing a major, costly overhaul. It offers a lot of flexibility as their needs change.
That makes sense, yeah. Scalable and consistent approach.
Yeah.
Now, the report also identifies something called in-app and web as the fastest growing segment by type. That feels like a totally different world compared to physical hardware.
It is, yeah. Think about how much audio is becoming part of our digital interactions. Background music is being used really strategically now to, well, enrich those online experiences.
How so? Give me some examples.
Okay, so take a musician's website. A well-chosen instrumental track playing softly in the background can really reinforce their artistic identity, their brand.
Right, it sets the mood immediately.
Exactly. Or think about travel platforms. They might use subtle ambient sounds, maybe waves for a beach resort, or city sounds for a metropolitan hotel to kind of evoke the feeling of being there.
Like that gentle sound of rain for a nature retreat website, maybe?
Perfect example, yeah. And its impact goes beyond just setting a mood. In, say, gaming apps or wellness apps, music is crucial. It can heighten engagement, help with focus, or promote relaxation.
Okay.
Even e-commerce sites are starting to experiment with background music. The idea is to create a more immersive shopping environment, maybe encourage people to browse a bit longer. It's really about weaving audio into the fabric of the online user journey.
That's fascinating. A whole new layer to the online experience. Okay, let's shift gears now to how the market is segmented by the end-use industry. The report says retail stores currently hold the largest market share.
Yes, and that probably doesn't surprise many people. Music is almost a constant presence in most shops we go into.
Feels like it, yeah.
But what's revealing here is the intentionality behind it. Retailers are getting much more sophisticated in how they use audio. They're carefully curating playlists to really resonate with their specific target demographic and, importantly, shape the perception of their brand.
So it's not just random pop music anymore.
Not if they're doing it right. A high-end boutique, for instance, might choose classical music or maybe some sophisticated electronic lounge tracks to project an image of luxury and exclusivity.
Makes sense.
Whereas a clothing store aiming for younger consumers might go for upbeat pop or, I don't know, indie rock to create a more energetic, trendy atmosphere. It's all about crafting that desired customer experience.
And the report mentioned something else too about noise.
Ah, yes. It also notes that background music can be really effective at masking unwanted background noise within a store chatter, shuffling, ventilation systems. That's particularly valuable in really busy settings, makes it feel less chaotic.
Oh, interesting point. And there was a note about Germany, something about regulations.
Yeah, that was an interesting detail. Apparently, Germany has draft regulations slated for September 2024 that specifically address online discount retailers, and these regs include provisions related to background music services they might offer online.
Wow, so even the digital audio component in retail is getting regulatory attention.
It highlights the growing recognition of just how much these sensory elements, like audio, play a role in the overall retail landscape, both physical and digital.
Okay, now let's dig into that fastest growing end-use segment you mentioned earlier, cafes and restaurants. Why is background music so pivotal there? It seems obvious, but what's the detail?
Well, in cafes and restaurants, music really goes beyond just being background filler. It's often a fundamental piece of the overall ambiance, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. I mean, think about your favorite coffee shop or restaurant. The music is a huge part of whether you feel it's a relaxing place to work, or a lively spot to meet friends, or maybe a romantic setting for dinner.
Exactly. The right soundtrack can practically define the entire experience for the customer.
Yeah, I can definitely think of places where the music alone has made me decide to stay longer. Or maybe even choose one place over another down the street.
And that's precisely its power. The right music, or conversely the wrong music, can directly influence customer mood and even their behavior.
How so? Like spending habits.
Yeah, research suggests that even the tempo of the music can affect how long people stay and potentially what they order. Slower tempos, for instance, might encourage guests to linger longer.
Which could be good for places wanting a relaxed vibe, maybe leading to higher spend per customer.
Exactly. That seems to be the thinking. The report specifically mentions things like soft jazz or maybe acoustic melodies as popular choices in coffee shops, aiming for that inviting, unhurried atmosphere.
Right.
So for these businesses, music isn't an afterthought. It's a really strategic tool to shape the customer journey and ultimately drive the outcomes they want, whether it's faster table turnover or encouraging patrons to relax and order dessert.
It's a very deliberate part of their business strategy. Okay, let's zoom in now on the regional dynamics we touched on earlier. North America, as we said, has the biggest market share right now. What are the key factors driving that dominance?
The report really emphasizes the role of innovation, specifically in AI-driven music composition, as a major driver in North America.
AI again.
Yeah, the region is just a massive hub for tech development generally, right? You've got countless companies, research institutions, all focused on pushing AI tools forward, including for music creation.
And that helps out. Cheaper music.
Essentially, yes. It leads to more efficient and cost-effective ways to generate royalty-free background music. That's a huge advantage for everyone from, say, Video game developers to advertisers, filmmakers, app creators, anyone needing soundtracks.
Right, avoids complex licensing fees.
Exactly. And the accessibility of these AI platforms, the report mentions names like AIVA, SoundDraw, Amper Music, even OpenAI's Jukebox is making it much easier and more affordable for businesses of all sizes to get customized, decent quality soundtracks.
So the high concentration of tech companies and R&D in North America gives them a kind of first-mover advantage in applying AI to this space.
That seems to be a big part of it, yeah.
Yeah.
They're pioneering these solutions and figuring out how to apply them across different industries.
It's fascinating how AI is just weaving its way into everything, even the sounds around us. Okay, what about Europe? They have a substantial influence too. What's their main driving force?
Europe's strength seems really closely linked to the growth in its video game and virtual reality industries. Both are booming there.
Okay, gaming and VR. Why is background music so important for them?
Well, these sectors have a particularly strong need for dynamic, adaptive background music. Music that doesn't just loop, but actually reacts to what the player is doing or what's happening in the virtual environment in real time.
So it changes based on the action.
Precisely. And European developers are apparently right at the forefront of integrating these kinds of AI-powered interactive soundtracks. The goal is to make the experience way more immersive for users in these digital worlds.
So the music becomes an active participant, almost not just a backdrop.
Exactly. That focus on creating really engaging, responsive audio experiences in these high-growth sectors is what's fueling the demand for more sophisticated background music solutions in Europe.
Gotcha. Now, APAC Asia Pacific, that's the region with the highest projected growth at 8.3% CGR we mentioned. What's fueling that really impressive expansion?
The report points to rapid advancements and, crucially, the adoption of 3D and spatial audio technologies. Things like Dolby Atmos, DTS:X, Sony's 360 reality audio.
Okay, spatial audio, like surround sound but more advanced.
Kinda, yeah. It aims to create a more three-dimensional immersive sound field. And this isn't just for gaming and VR, though that's a big part of it. It's also being used increasingly in commercial spaces. Think high-end retail, maybe theme parks, cinemas, obviously.
Interesting. And which countries are leading this in APAC?
Countries like China, Japan, South Korea, and India are mentioned as heavily investing in these next-gen audio technologies. The focus is really on creating a more captivating auditory experience, delivering sound that feels like it's truly surrounding the listener, enhancing realism and engagement.
So moving way beyond just basic stereo sound. And the report mentioned some specific country trends within APAC too, right?
It did, yeah. For China, the rapid growth was linked partly to the rise of smart retail concepts, where enhanced audio is part of creating a more tech-forward, engaging customer journey.
Okay.
In South Korea, the market seems influenced by things like social media trends, K-pop obviously, but even interestingly, a rising rate of pet adoption, which apparently can drive demand for specialized audio in related businesses like pet cafes or stores.
Pet adoption.
Yeah.
That's specific.
I know, right? And then India's growth rate projected at 10.2% CGR, that just really underscores the dynamism and potential in that particular market. Huge potential there.
Wow. Okay. Let's turn our attention now to South America. What are the key factors shaping their background music market?
For South America, the growth potential seems largely driven by better internet access and wider smartphone use. This is making cloud-based music streaming services much more accessible and popular.
So businesses are using streaming platforms more.
Exactly. Businesses in retail and hospitality, especially in major cities like São Paulo, Buenos Aires, Santiago, they're leveraging platforms specifically designed for business use. Think Spotify for business, Soundtrack Your Brand, maybe Apple Music for business.
And the advantages.
Ease of use, scalability. They can manage the music across multiple locations pretty efficiently using these cloud solutions. It streamlines the whole process. So technology adoption is key there.
Got it. Leveraging tech to streamline operations. What about the Middle East? What's contributing to growth in that region?
The Middle East shows strong growth potential mainly because of a boom in local content creation. Short films, web series, independent productions are apparently flourishing.
So more demand for soundtracks for this content.
Precisely. It's generating a greater need for background music to enhance storytelling, particularly in countries like Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Egypt, and Jordan.
Any other factors mentioned?
Well, Qatar's growth was potentially linked to evolving railway safety standards, maybe using audio cues for passenger info or alerts. A bit niche, perhaps. And Turkey apparently saw significant growth, possibly due to integrating background music services with voice assistants, making it easier for businesses to control their music hands-free.
It's really intriguing how diverse the drivers can be from region to region. Okay, and finally, let's look at Africa. What's the outlook there?
In Africa, the growth potential seems tied to the evolving digital advertising landscape.
Digital ads. How does background music fit in?
There's apparently a rising trend of incorporating background music into things like digital billboards and interactive signage, especially in major cities like Johannesburg, Lagos, Nairobi, Cairo.
To make them more noticeable.
Engaging.
Yeah, exactly.
Ah.
To capture attention and create a more immersive advertising experience than just a silent visual. And Nigeria's potential growth was even linked to advancements in AI-powered mood recognition technology.
Mood recognition, how would that work?
The idea, presumably, is that advertising content, including its soundtrack, could dynamically adapt based on the detected mood of the people nearby. Early days, I imagine, but
Yeah.
points to future possibilities. Wow, okay, so across all these regions, while you see common threads like technology adoption, the specific drivers and how background music is actually used can be really unique and
Yeah.
depend a lot on the local context.
Definitely. It's not a one-size-fits-all market.
Now, the report also helpfully outlines the overall market drivers, restraints, and key trends on a global level. Let's just briefly touch on those. What are the main forces really propelling this whole market forward?
Well, the primary drivers are pretty clear from our discussion, I think. First, that continuous innovation in AI-driven music composition we talked about. It's making royalty-free music way more available and customizable.
Like the AI factor.
Second, the rising popularity of video games and VR, which, as we saw in Europe especially, demand really sophisticated and adaptive audio. And third, just the ongoing expansion of subscription-based music services, which provide relatively easy access to huge music libraries for businesses.
Okay, those make sense. And what about the flip side? What factors might be holding the market back or posing challenges?
The main restraints identified in the report are, perhaps predictably, the potentially high costs associated with some of the premium subscription services.
Can get expensive for small businesses, maybe.
Could be, yeah.
Yeah.
And also the limited availability of genuinely high-quality background music that is also available for free or at a very low cost. There's a lot of free music out there, but the quality can be variable.
Finding good and free is the challenge. Got it. And looking ahead, what are the big trends the report flags that we should be aware of?
Two main ones stood out. First, a growing demand for more localized and regional background music.
So moving away from generic global playlists.
Seems like it. Reflecting the importance of cultural relevance, catering to specific local audience tastes. Makes sense, right? Music isn't universal in its appeal.
True. And the second trend.
The rapid expansion of the podcast industry itself.
Hey, that's us.
Yeah. It's creating a whole new and growing demand for background music, jingles, sound design, all to enhance audio storytelling in podcasts.
It's interesting how the growth of one audio medium can actually fuel demand in another related one. Okay, finally, the report gives a few glimpses into the competitive landscape. Sounds like it's pretty active out there.
It is indeed described as highly competitive with a mix of big, established global players and also smaller, emerging regional specialists.
Any specific examples of recent activity?
Yeah, the report highlighted several things from late 2024. For instance, Bose acquired Macintosh Group. Macintosh is known for high-end audio, so that suggests maybe Bose wants to integrate that higher fidelity audio into more commercial applications.
Interesting move.
Bose also launched a new smart soundbar around the same time, probably aimed at enhancing those immersive audio experiences we talked about.
Okay.
Then you had Universal Music Group acquiring a majority stake in PIAS, which is a major independent music company in Europe. That points to ongoing consolidation in the broader music industry.
Big players getting bigger.
Seems like it. There were also discussions mentioned about Sony Music potentially buying Pink Floyd's catalog, just underscores the massive, enduring value of iconic music libraries.
Huge value there, yeah.
And TikTok's increasing influence on music discovery was noted, which obviously shapes trends and tastes, and that can indirectly filter down into background music choices for businesses trying to stay relevant.
Can't ignore TikTok's power.
No. And lastly, Bose celebrating its 60th anniversary was mentioned, just highlighting the long history but also continued innovation within the audio tech sector itself. So yeah, these snippets suggest a market with a lot going on, investment, strategic acquisitions, constant push for innovation.
So a lot of strategic maneuvering and tech development happening among the key players. Okay, let's try and synthesize all of this then. As we wrap up, what are the absolute core insights we should take away from this deep dive into the background music market based on the report?
Okay. I think firstly, just the sheer scale and the very real projected growth. It's undeniable. This market is significant and it's expanding, showing a clear, increasing need for carefully curated audio environments across loads of different industries.
It's big and getting bigger.
Secondly, the regional drivers are key. We've seen how North America is really pushed by AI creativity, Europe by the demands of gaming and VR, and APAC is riding that wave of immersive spatial audio.
And the others?
South America's growth tied to streaming accessibility, the Middle East fueled by a local content creation boom, and Africa leveraging evolving digital advertising. Each has its flavor.
And in terms of what kind of businesses are using it most, while retail stores have the biggest slice now, it's those cafes and restaurants and also the in-app and web solutions that are growing the fastest.
Exactly. And kind of underpinning all of this is the increasing influence of technology, especially AI and spatial audio, which are fundamentally changing how background music is created, delivered, and ultimately how we experience it.
Okay, so considering all those dynamics, here's maybe a final thought for our listeners. As you go about your day, walking through a store, sitting in a cafe, using an app, maybe start paying a bit more attention to the background music you encounter.
Yeah, how might these trends we've discussed actually be shaping that specific experience you're having?
And furthermore, if you have professional interests, maybe in marketing or tech or hospitality, how might these evolving capabilities like AI-generated soundtracks or spatially aware audio present new opportunities or maybe even new challenges for you?
It's definitely a market with significant momentum and a lot of innovation bubbling up. Something to keep an ear out for, you could say.
Definitely something to ponder. Well, if this overview has piqued your interest, remember, this was just our distillation of a much, much more extensive report. The source mentioned it's over 250 pages packed with detailed analysis.
A lot more still in there for sure.
So you might find it valuable to delve into that full report if you can, or maybe just explore some of the specific areas we touched on today that really resonated with you. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.